Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. This girl, her name is Asami Ueno. She is the new Go star of Japan, and guess how many life and death problems she has solved in one single day? Take a guess in your heart. Just guess. Are you ready for the answer? Are you ready? She has solved 1,116 life and death problems in one day. But how is that possible? How can a human being possibly solve so many life and death problems in one day? How? You ask me. Me ask who? Me ask who? Huh? The game that we're talking about today is the final game in the 7th Go Seigen Cup between Asami Ueno and Jiawen. Both are 6th-dan professional. Jiawen is a very strong professional Chinese female player. She has been the new rising star in China as well, and her style is very balanced. I haven't seen that many of her games, but apparently she is definitely going to become one of the top players in China. So for the first two games, each player won one game, and this is the deciding game for the championship of the Go Seigen Cup. Asami Ueno is playing as black, and she starts out with this type of fuseki, looking to build influence, and that has always been her style throughout all the games that I have watched from her. Her style is basically build a moyo, you come in, I kill you because I've done so many life and death problems. So it's very hard to escape your dragons when you're playing against Ueno. White attaches is a modern joseki. Now, if black can decide to extend up, extend down, hane up, hane down, those are all valid variations. But of course, Ueno is going to continue with her plan, that is to build a moyo on top. So now they played a modern AI joseki when black Ataris are going to push and go into the corner. Black will capture, building a very thick influence. White Ataris, black Ataris, and then they complete the joseki. This is how you would play out this joseki. The result of this is a slightly better position in the eyes of AI, but of course for human players this doesn't really matter. Later on, the ko will become quite an interesting part of the game where both players have to watch ko threats for this ko. White continues by approaching, and now Ueno plays the big knight. This is a lot less common than a small knight, of course, and this is where you can see Ueno's style. It's by playing these moves that are not very common, take her opponent out of the book, so her opponent can't use AI to, play out moves that are just out of memorization. Rather, you're just playing Go against me. And then if you play Go against me without AI helping you, well, you're in the jungle. And then we all know what happens when you're in the jungle with Ueno is that she just done more life and death problems than you, and she will outread you in some way. Jiawen hops back. This is also a little less common. One of the variations is for a way to just go directly to take the territory. This is totally fine. The game would have continued with probably this type of variation. Okay, so this is a possible variation, but as you see, Jiawen did not want that because this is totally Ueno style. Moyo, and then in the late game it will become very difficult because you will have to fight Ueno in an area where she really likes, which is to kill dragons. Okay, so that's why Jiawen decided to use balance in her game. Now, Ueno decides to take big moves from other places, and black now attaches. I've also recently had a video, if you're interested, you can check it out, where I talked about this move. So there are obviously other moves that are joseki. This is the move I recommended. When white protects the corner, black can just push on top. Now, in this game, this would not work very well for white because of the influence that black has over here is collaborating very well with what's going on here. So white will probably have to change the strategy by pushing on top. This would usually not be a great move in the early game because it allows black later on to come into the corner. But here's the deal.
When you're playing a Joseki, it's important to look at the Fuseki. Okay, so you have chosen a Joseki like this. Then you have to make adjustment for your other Joseki to make sure that they work well together. A lot of times you could be playing two Josekis locally, but they don't work at all with each other, and you might just be in an inferior position. So in this game, there's not much story going on here. They just played a very normal Joseki where white was able to protect the corner and black got a little bit squeezed into the corner. Black now plays the split move, which is very nice. When white attacks, normally we would play the two-space extension, nothing wrong with the move, but Ueno decided to not play peaceful, and then she initiates the attack as she always does. White attaches on top, black directly goes for the fight. We all know she loves to fight. We all know she's about pure violence on the Go board. Black cuts and push on top. This is hoping white would play like this. If white plays like this, it would be falling into a trap because even if, so black will Atari first and then play the tiger's mouth. So if the game plays like this is a pretty much a winning position for black because black stones are super efficient. The problem with white is that this stone, we have no idea what it's doing. This is a really bad stone. So after these exchanges, black is probably leading by a lot. So that's what black was hoping for. And of course, for a player like at the level of Jiawen, it's not possible for that to happen. So she Ataris on the second line, forcing black to extend, and now wedge. Black Ataris on top, white connects, and then now black blocks. It's very aggressive. You can see that Ueno's style is like, you can see it's almost exaggerated. She's always relying on her monstrous reading abilities, as I've said in my intro. Like, who solves a 1,000+ life and death problem in one day, right? So this is her absolute strength. And she's just relying on this strength and just crushing her opponent like this. Just, you see, there's so many cutting points. This stone is like a little off, but if white just cuts and go into a fight, and Ueno just is so confident, she's just like, yeah, I'm going to outread you in a fight. It doesn't matter what my initial position is. I'm going to fight, and I win. I win because I solve more life and death problems than you in one day, which is a kind of crazy style. And I really enjoy watching her games. And if you like her games, you can definitely follow her games. It's really fun to watch. White honeys, black blocks. And now white goes back to capture the two stones on the third line. Black jumps, finally fixing a little bit over here. But now white cuts, black extends, preventing double Atari. White connects, this is a sente towards the corner, and therefore black plays a tiger's mouth to fix the cutting point. White extends, and black pushes on top. So this push, under the eyes of AI, it's a problematic move. So what the AI suggested was to actually connect over here. It's a little hard for humans to understand, but what this move is basically doing is that it's looking at issues that white has in the corner. So let's say, for example, if white pushes on top, then black actually can start attacking the corner by honeying and play the 2-2. So the corner variation is actually very interesting. Black has to honey first for white to block. This is a very interesting life and death problem, actually. So when black plays here, white has to capture. So if white doesn't capture this stone, there's not enough ice space. For example, if prevent the connection, black can just connect. And this is a famous death shape. When white plays the vital point, black extends, forming a moyo of honeying here and connecting underneath, which means white is clean dead. So to prevent that from happening, white has to capture black stone. Black Ataris, white captures, and now black squeezes on the second line. White has to extend, and this is a co-alive for white. So that's basically the correct answer for this life and death problem. Now, if, for example, if black plays the 2-2 first without the honey, white has a Tsuji. Because when black now honeys, hoping white would block and go back to the same variation, white can honey at 1-2 first. And when black extends, that's where you can pause the video and think about what white's move is. This is actually not so easy for amateur level players. So pause the video, think about the local life and death. It's a very interesting life and death. I'm going to reveal the answer. The answer is for white to jump on the first line, and that's a Tsuji. So it's looking at extending over here, making white, there's an eye here and there's an eye over here. So if black breaks that, white now can cut thanks to the first line stone. Black Ataris, white extend, black Ataris, white extend. And then we can see there's an eye here, and clearly, since the two stones are dead, there's another eye over here. Very interesting life and death, and it's definitely, you have to be a good 7-dan to figure this out in a game if you don't know the theory. But despite that, despite, after black connects, white still needs to tanuki locally because it's a ko alive, as we have shown, right? So there's no rush to immediately live the corner where there's so many important battle points. For example, this move would be way bigger than saving the corner right now because it's a ko alive. So it's not like the next move black can capture the entire corner. Okay, so that's a little bit of the theory. In the actual game, Ueno push on top is very understandable, right? We're trying to suppress white's influence and we're trying to build influence for ourselves. Very easy to understand for a human, but AI does not approve it, and that's just how it is. Like, AI is just way stronger. White now extends. This is actually a suiciding move, as we will see in the game, but the reason Tang Jiawen played this move is to cause co-threats. So basically there's a wedge and there's a bunch of co-threat. And the reason she's creating co-threat is very easy to understand, is that she wants to start a ko right now. And this ko is very serious for both players. Black takes, white wedges, black has to Atari, and white takes back. And clearly, Ueno has less co-threat than Tang Jiawen. So for black, it's a little difficult to find a co-threat. But Ueno decided to just trying to save the stone here. Here's an opportunity for Tang Jiawen to gain a lead. That is for Tang Jiawen to simply just capture the stone, like getting rid of this ko. When black gets out, we can still fight on the site. And there's some more variations than these, of course, but just to say that white doesn't have to respond to this move. But for human players, it's so hard to judge. I'm saying this because I see the commentators using AI to analyze, so that's why they know the answer. In the actual game, Tang Jiawen decides to protect. That's a miss of opportunity. If white play correctly here, white can get to about 80% win rate. But of course, for human players, it's too much to ask that they know all the percentage when they don't have an AI on their hand. Black takes back, white connects, black has to respond locally. That's just a warehouse of co-threat over here. When white takes back now, black still is having a lack of co-threat, so she goes into the corner. Tang Jiawen decided to not get rid of the ko because if you get rid of the ko like this, black will play the Hane, and then yeah, you gain some profits, but not that much. At the end of the day, it's just a very strong corner. It doesn't really hurt black too much, but you're suffering a lot on the top left. So Tang Jiawen decided to think globally. Instead of immediately claim the profits over here, she decided to actually not let the corner hurt. Black takes back. White now continues using the co-threat over here. White takes back. Black hanes. And white connects to try to eliminate the co-threat, the number of co-threats. When black takes back, white Ataris, black connects. And then when black extends, so for amateur level players, this is probably a no-brainer. You just take, right? But the thing is, black has a very annoying move that is just to play the tiger's mouth. This is looking at this very annoying Hane and then weaken white, and white is not alive here. So if white Ataris, this means that this connection makes this stone in a war situation. Now, if white just tries to save the corner, this is a very good move. It also hurt the stone over here, but black can just play the Kosumi, and tactically, there's no way for white to get out. So that's what Tang Jiawen was worried about in the actual game. That's why she's very patient, and she actually decides to fight the ko for even longer. White Ataris, black takes back, and now white uses more co-threats. This is already losing some points for white because, yes, in terms of points, white gains something, but this cut makes black's outside significantly stronger. So at this point, this is already a bad co-threat. But of course, in a ko, you have to find co-threats, and that's just sometimes you just have to lose points. Black Ataris, white Black takes back, and finally, Tang Jiawen uses another painful code threat that allows black to become completely invincible here. White takes back, and now black is out of code threat, and she played very calm, and it was very surprising to everyone. Normally for players, it was think about at least, push up and then just honey and then try to press. But no, that's not what Ueno played. She actually played rock solid, just playing like this, claiming the territory here. And when White captures the stone, she plays another very calm move, threatening the corner. So these two moves are basically her code threats, and that's a very calm way of playing. And at this point, the game is still very equal. White now has to deal with the weakness over here a little bit. Black plays the Kosumi shape move. White extends, black blocks. White extends once again. Very nice move, building towards the outside. Black now Ataris, making sure that there's not this annoying tiger's mouth that connects the stone. So this stone is a little bit in danger. Therefore, Tang Jiawen decided to play the jump here. This is a slight inaccuracy. And this is probably why Tang Jiawen became a little bit behind in the game. So the correct move is extremely hard to find for human players. That is for White to Kosumi here, actually. And this is just only suggested by AI. And you really can't blame players not finding this type of move. It's just way too hard. So against this move, it puts more pressure on the black. And black has to respond to this, right? So instead of playing a loose move, this move will connect better towards the stone over here. Now, this move has issues, and we'll see that later on in the game. Black plays the Kosumi, and White now attaches on the second line. She's a little worried about the connection over here, so she doesn't want the black to connect over here, and she also wants to go into a variation where if she can play a move on top here, let's say at this point, in Sente, then there's no weakness over here. She does sense the weakness of this shape because black has the annoying peep later on. Black now plays the bamboo shape, very professional move. White has to defend the weakness, and now black hanes, white blocks, and then black captures the stone on the second line. Black's side is completely alike. Tang Jiawen now decides to start an attack onto black over here, and black does look very weak. But this is exactly what Ueno was hoping for. She is really good at these type of fights. First of all, she takes the ko. This is threatening to start a ko over here. White cannot allow that to happen. White connects, and now black jumps out. It looks like a normal move, but actually this has insane amount of reading behind it. It's probably 50 variations in here, but I'm just going to present one of the main variations that Ueno read out in like 20 seconds. So that variation is for White to peep here. This is the first thing that a professional level player would worry about because there's a shape move, looks at a cutting point, also enclosing black. So if I was to play black at this point, I will just, I'm pretty sure I'm 10 moves away from resigning because it looks so dangerous for black. But if we follow our principles properly, then we can get out. And this is kind of like a message I want to give to my audience as well, because a lot of times I know that in your games, you have a group that's weak and people attack your group and you don't know how to make a life and you just die and you resign the game. And it's so frustrating. I understand that feeling. I have been there before and I'm still there. Okay, so the reason that happens to you is because you try so hard to make two eyes. You try so hard to just desperately trying to run or hoping your opponent will, have some sort of mercy and just give you two eyes. And I'll tell you, most of the time, that's not going to happen. The best way for you to survive is to follow the principles of invasion. And if you like to know more, I have an invasion series that you can check out. But the first principle of getting your group out or surviving an attack is to counterattack. That's the most important principle of invasion. If White plays out like this, instead of panicking and play just random moves, let's first look at White. White is not invincible, and we can take advantage of White's weakness and get a nice counterattack that will actually defeat White here. So The correct move is first for us to play the triangle move, looking at both cutting points. See, I'm not even worrying about my group. I'm just attacking, okay? So that's a very good idea that you should use in your game. White has to connect. Now we push and cut. So who is attacking who, right? You know, it looked like very dangerous for black at the beginning, but when we actually start counterattacking, white has all kinds of worries. Now white cannot Atari because we can just run out. There's a turn over here, and there's a turn over here. So white cannot ladder our stones, and white is broken into pieces. White cannot play like this. Now the correct move is for white to just turn and save the group over here first, and then instead of panicking, we follow up with our idea, that is the Atari on top, and then connect our stones. It looks like our group is just dead here. And it is dead indeed if white plays the push here, preventing the push and cut. But look at black. Black is going to push and cut, and white needs to live the corner. I will spend some time to talk about how to live the corner exactly. It's very interesting. But right now, let's just say white can live with one move, or almost live with one group. Black now plays the small knight. And now as we can see, this is not white attacking black anymore, but rather black trying to kill white, right? With our counterattack, we have turned the table, and now it's white, who doesn't have a single eye, who's running towards our nuclear center, and we have another nuclear center waiting for him, for the white group over here. I don't even know how white's gonna live. This looks very difficult. If this group dies, that just compensates for whatever black lost over here. So we have effectively changed the role in the game, and we go for a counterattack, and all of a sudden we don't have to worry about surviving. Rather, white has to worry about surviving. And that's the best idea to survive when you are facing an attack. So the conclusion is, if white plays like this, she's probably going to lose the game because this attack is so fierce, and she's facing one of the best fighters in the world right now. Ueno, which I said she solves 1,000 life and death problems per day, which is insane. I don't know. I have no idea how that happens. Okay. So that's a very good lesson, not just for my audience, but for myself. When I was watching this variation, I was very touched. I was, because I keep saying counterattack in my Invader series, but I don't do it enough in my own games. And this is where we can learn from the professionals. Now, Jiawen is a very strong player, so she read it out, and she decided to push instead. Black turns, white plays the Kosumi, black squeeze over here, white has to cut black off. Black jumps down, white pushes, black blocks, and now white has to worry about the corner. She has to spend a move to live, and at this point, Ueno cuts. There's a very serious attach here, so white has to worry about it by playing a tiger's mouse, tightening the two liberties over here to make sure that she's okay over here. Black now connects, and then white takes back. Now, so before we continue with the variation over here, you'll be yelling at me, well, what's going on with this corner? Let's talk about it right now. If black push and cuts over here, it looks like a very dead corner, right? But white actually has a way to get out. That is to just play the honey. So black has to block the squeeze liberty. White can now extend. Now, this is a sente, right? Because white can Atari and capture. So before black connects, black can actually peep here first. Because if you just connect, then white can make a tiger's mouth, and this is obviously a ko. And this ko is actually very serious for black as well, because if you don't win this ko, okay, if you play somewhere else and white takes back, then white has this Atari that follows, and black cannot suffer this much loss. So it's better for black to peep first, white connects, and now black comes back and fixes the weakness. So locally it looks dead for white, right? We have just seen a shape like this. If white plays the honey, black is going to extend. There's a miai of black breaking the eye here and connecting underneath. It's a famous dead shape. But white now has a Tsuji, that is the honey on the first line. So this is a sente. Black cannot block because white Ataris, and then there's a sequence over here. If you want to know what's going on, We can Atari, and very important to not Atari immediately, but throw in, squeeze black's liberty by one more, Atari, black connects, and then we can capture black like this. Okay, some basics. Now, the correct move is for black to play the tiger's mouth, fixing the weakness. Now, thanks to our first line stone, here we have a Tsuji, that is the clamp at 1-2. This is a very difficult life and death problem. So if you don't get it, it's okay. I just want to show you the variation because I think it's very interesting. This is at least a 7-den problem. White clamps. Black cannot allow white to take another vital point. So now there are two variations. When white extends, if black plays here, forming a dead shape, white can connect over here. So the next move, white is planning to connect, forming a seki, and black cannot stop that. If black stops it, white is just having enough time to come back and capture black. Now, if you Atari, I can capture, and this is a bent 4, and that's a life shape. So what are some of the other variations? If black plays the 1-1, so in life and death, you really have to read out all the variations. When you play at 1-1, white can Atari. When black takes back, it looks like a ko, but at this point, white can use her abundance of liberties and Atari from behind. This is not a legal move, and black has no choice but letting white to live inside. And that's it. There's no more variations, right? So we talked about the squeeze in, we talked about 1-1, and all the other moves. Of course, they don't work. If you throw in here, of course, I'm not going to take. I'm going to Atari. I'm going to squeeze here from behind. You can't connect thanks to my stone here, right? So you have to take. I come back on time to capture black, and white is alive. So the second main variation for black here is to Atari. And this would usually lead to a ko. Okay, so if white just plays like this is a direct ko. Okay, but white can do slightly better by Ataring on the first line, and that's the tricky part. Black captures. White now plays the Atari from behind, forming a ko. First of all, black cannot connect here. Obviously, when white captures, there's a miai. White's going to connect here. White's going to play the vital point. White is clean alive. But you might be wondering, well, can I throw in here? So if black throws in here, white has a very serious Tsuji. That is to throw in from here. Okay, so this is threatening to capture the 3 stones at the same time. Black has to Atari, has to capture. But thanks to our stone, we can capture back. And when black captures back, we can now connect. This forms a double ko. When black Ataris, we can take. So it doesn't really matter. White is alive because when you find a ko threat, you capture back. I capture you from here. You have to go find another ko threat. But white can do this infinitely, but you don't have an infinite number of ko threats, and therefore white is also clean alive in this case. So the correct move is just for black to block here, but white can actually ignore that, and black already spent a move, and therefore the corner is still a ko. So white really doesn't have to worry about it. This is what we call one-step ko. It means that you have to spend another move and then another move to like start immediate ko, which is very tiring for black. So black will not rush to play out this variation because there's so many big moves out there. So I spend a lot of time and energy talking about life and death, but I really think it's worth it because I feel like in your games, probably just a simple life and death, you'll turn the game around. So really pay attention to these type of life and death situations. Okay, so we have explained that white is not worried about this push and cut. That's the moral of the story. In the actual game, black needs to first live the upper side, right? White connects, black takes back, and now because you don't have the first line Hane, this corner is going to be dead if you let black play first. White jumps, taking vital point, now it's alive. Black attaches, white blocks, black extends, which is Sente. White connects, and now black comes back and live very comfortably. There's an unbreakable eye here. Of course, there's another eye over here, and therefore Ueno very comfortably made the dragon alive, just like magic. So at this point, Tang Jiawen is behind. And the reason she actually fall behind was because of the jump move over here, which is, I think Go is so hard, guys. This is ridiculous. A seemingly just fine move. Under a professional game, it becomes the reason why you're behind. And that's just insane to me. Yeah, so at this point, Tang Jiawen needs to fight for the win, and she has to play some tough moves. That is for her to invade over here. It's very dangerous for White to invade here, but she has to do it. Ueno obviously cuts. White jumps out. Black now takes a vital point, and now White comes back. So if Black just rushes to capture the stone here, I'm pretty sure a lot of you would do that. It's not a great idea because then White has a lot of chances to build on top. So instead of just cutting the stone here, Ueno is going to cut the 2 stones. Therefore, White cannot give up both. In the actual game, Black attaches, following up with the idea. White hanes, Black cuts, and White pushes, make the bamboo shape. Black extends out. Very difficult fight for White. White jumps out. Black plays a Kosumi. Very nice move, looking at the Atari and net, but also cap White inside. White has no choice but to push out. And now Black Ataris. White cannot run. That was the variation I was referring to. If White pushes again, we can capture White like this. Of course, professional level players can't make those kind of beginner mistakes. So now Tang Jiawen is really going for the all-in. She is taking the territory, destroying territory for Black, threatening the group over here. Ueno is definitely not scared of it. She fights for a living. She jumps out like this, threatening White's dragon. White desperately running for her life. At this point, Ueno knows she's very ahead, but what is the point of living your life if you can't cut your opponent? Therefore, she goes ahead and does it. White has to respond locally, and there's a shoulder hit coming. Tang Jiawen is now desperately just trying to make some sort of shape, but next move, Black plays a very dagger-looking bamboo-shaped move that's sending a chill into Tang Jiawen's spine. Such a aggressive move. Tang Jiawen raises her head, looking at this beautiful Japanese girl in front of her. What she sees is Aiyo Sakata, it's Go Seigen, it's Choji-Kon, it's Sai himself. It's so strong that I can see Sai on my screen. But more importantly, she sees 1,116 life and death problem heartlessly coming towards her. She is now trying to survive the dragon. Can she do it? Instead of just running for her life, she listened to my video. She's going for a counterattack, and now Ueno is very happy because now she can cut once again. White Atari's, Black connects, and White connects the weakness over here. This is a Sente because White's gonna Atari, and then that will turn the game around. Of course, Ueno sees that. She captured the stone over here, and at this point, White has to attach, control the 2 stones over here to make sure that this dragon is okay. This dragon is not alive. So at this point, Black plays a peep move. White Ataris. Looks like White fixed the cutting point in Sente, but is that really true? No, it's not, because Black can still run out thanks to this capture. Before that, though, Tang Jiawen decided to threaten Black's group over here. Do you want a trade of dragon? Ueno says no. What is mine is mine. What is yours is also mine. She jumps over here. White pushes down. Black extends, leaving her dragon first. After several exchanges, White now has to go back and fix this unavoidable weakness. Black peeps. White connects. Black now bumps into White. White pushes out. Black blocks. White desperately just trying to create some weaknesses in Black shape. But what weakness? I see no weakness. White cuts over here, forming a counterattack. I have no idea what White is counterattacking because Black is live on both sides. At this point, what Black jumps over here, and at this point, Tang Jiawen decided to resign. And the reason Tang Jiawen resigned as White over here is because this dragon is simply just dead. First of all, I don't even see how White's going to get back home with one move. There's just too many cutting points, but more importantly, there's another cutting point over here. White is just cut into pieces. If White goes ahead and fix here, Black pretty much can play anything and White is dead because this is a nuclear center. This group is completely alive. I don't see any ice space over here. If you see it, let me know, comment below on the video, but I really don't see it, and therefore I think it's a reasonable moment for Tang Jiawen to resign, even if she doesn't want to, even if this is the final game. But at this point, against an opponent who does 1,000 and more life and death problems per day, it's the time to resign. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. If you want to support my work, I have a Patreon page linked down in the description. You can become a free Patreon member to enjoy more content. But if you want more exclusive content, you can also check out some of the membership that I have. Thank you very much for tuning in. I will see you guys next time.